It's Jen Suzuki, and I'm in the industry. I meet some of the greatest leaders out there, dealer execs, dealers, GMs, and I'm bringing them in the studio to talk to me about what's making their business pop, what's accelerating their growth. I'm sharing my own personal strategies for your sales teams, so I'm ready to get after it. Are you? Welcome back, listeners. Today, I'm joined by Mark Queen, CEO of Skaivision. This is an AI company. They specialize in computer vision for dealership operations. I know what you're thinking. You're like, what is that? Oh, wait. I'm very excited about today's guest because the topic was something I really didn't know a lot about. In fact, I guess I didn't really know anything about, but I can't wait for you to hear this. Mark is an innovator. He has been around automotive technology. This is not his first run with Skaivision. He was actually the founding partner of eLead CRM, one of the industry's most successful customer relationship management platforms out there. And it was acquired by CDK Global. And now he's turning his focus to AI. He's helping dealers optimize their processes. I love this. Improving customer experience. This is why he's here. And he's driving all that operational efficiency, which I am such a fan of. He's got a lot of understanding on how computer vision and AI are reshaping dealerships' workflows. And he is here, Mark, to share insights on how dealers can leverage AI into being a real solution for their dealership challenges. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, me too, because you actually have such a great knowledge of some of the latest technology out there. AI has been such a buzzword for a long time. And there was something you mentioned to me recently, and I actually I had to chat GPT that one. And is convolutional neural network is really what the infrastructure is here on this platform of the cameras in the dealership and being able to leverage AI. Can you please just help me say it for me again and tell me what is this? Because I think we're so used to, all of the other types of AI. We don't hear this so much.
Definitely not. And CNN is a lot easier than the mouthful of convolutional neural network. That's a bunch, too much maybe. But
Yeah.
it is, computer vision is a small subset of the AI. When people normally think of AI, they think of ChatGPT, which you mentioned, or other language models.
Mm-hmm.
They think of some of the generative AI and some of the content generation and the deep fakes and the deep fakes kind of go along with the hallucinations of the language models. They
Yes.
think of that, but computer vision is a little less, but known in terms of what you can teach a camera or what you can teach algorithms or a neural network to look for in terms of patterns of video and to automate things from.
Mm-hmm.
And people generally, amazingly, they associate a lot of it with vehicle. When you look right now at what customers want on their vehicle, everyone wants the
The video,
360.
the cameras.
Yep, the dash
Right.
cam. And that's the biggie that they want. So therefore, more cameras on the vehicles, more cameras on newer dealership facilities that are built for a lot of reasons, and more cameras out there. So the more that we can make them assistive and not invasion, the better off we'll be.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, because I wanted to kick it off with this sort of a little intel on what we're going to be diving into today, because it is really this facet of AI that we don't hear a lot of, but you're always on the forefront of everything. You've built this huge career on solving big problems in dealerships. I've used eLead forever, and I can tell you, I'm very excited to see what you are up to and what you've got going on. And before we just jump into all of the AI and Skaivision and video, take us back. Take us back a little bit. What first drew you into the automotive space, and how did you get to the point where you're a co-founder of eLead?
Oh, wow. Unfortunately, that's a long journey. I don't want to date myself too bad, but it's, right out of school. I think my first real job was with Reynolds Reynolds.
Okay.
I had heard about when I was in law school, I heard about an opportunity for a tuition reimbursement clerkship there. I didn't get, but I met some people that worked for Reynolds and Reynolds and took advantage of a program that they had. And I I was blown away. I had never at that time, I think DMS and some of the things that their version of the era DMS was just coming out. And a company I met at the time, their CEO, Ed Zentz, and was blown away by this individual, very transformational meeting in my career looking back. And the training program they had to take you through dealership operation training of, hey, here are the different departments from F&I to service parts, accounting, and then to have to go into stores and install that and work with people at a dealership in various departments. That was really my first immersion into um, retail automotive world. And you you know, when you're young in your
Mm-hmm.
early to mid 20s, you absorb so much and you don't know anything, so you take everything at face value, and that was huge. I met some really smart people at Reynolds that led to a connection to solving a problem in another adjunctive space, marine and RV. Some marine and RV dealers, they didn't have a DMS. Like, and at the time, Reynolds and ADP weren't a good fit for them for a lot of reasons, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of how they ran their businesses and how their OEMs interacted with them. So we created what was really the first DMS for a boat and RV dealer, IDS, Integrated Dealer Systems, that's still the major DMS player in that space. But it was exciting being in your 20s and growing this from small to, I think it was just over 500 dealers when Brunswick, that owns Sea Ray, acquired us. Um, that was an incredible journey, a fast journey, but really incredible. And at that time that we were being purchased by Brunswick, I met a couple that owned a cookie marketing company for automotive, Fresh Beginnings, yes,
Uh-huh. Yes.
and they had quite a following, and they wanted to start a CRM. And there were really only a couple at that time you could look at for direction. Autobase was out there and Higher Gear, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
this was in 2000, and maybe even 99. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we looked at that and looked at the opportunity, um, there, obviously we wanted to make it web based, not server, and there were some things that we wanted to do differently. But dealers really didn't have CRMs. I'd say it was maybe 5% of dealers had a piece of technology. So it was not a foregone conclusion that we would ever have dealerships that have CRMs. And so that taught me a lot in terms of the target's going to move on whatever idea is great at the time. That CRM
Mm-hmm.
started out as just a glorified work planner organizer of have someone at the dealership put in your paper logs. Everyone used
Mm-hmm.
glass at the
That's what we
tower for their
used.
appointments, or they used a control log, and
Yes.
everything was paper based. When you think about it now, it's crazy to think you would go back and look at 30 days ago's log and who to call off of that in the digital world we live in. But there were people didn't live in their phones. The internet itself was fairly new. And
And the
so
internet leads start to drop, and it probably complicates this whole situation.
it propelled, accelerated the situation, because when those came about and started to become mainstream
They
in
were faxes.
2003 or
They were being
4.
faxed.
Yeah, and that's what drove a lot of the cookie marketing companies used to fax their paper logs
Yeah.
to to mail off of. And so going from paper to digital, I
Right.
think that the internet leads, when OEMs finally mandated and it became, 5-10% of a dealer's potential business could be an internet lead. That's when dealers said, well, if I'm going to have a lead management system, it might as
Mm-hmm.
well cover phone, showroom, et cetera, not just internet. And that's when you saw other players come into CRM. And, and that's the time when, again, you've got to evolve. I personally saw a need that CRM needed to desk deals and tried to learn
Right.
everything I could about desking systems
Inputting their
because
inventory was also a good moment.
Yes, yep, having that
Mm-hmm.
flow, but I thought where if the desk managers, they're gonna follow their money, and if they're working their deals here and you expect them to log in this other system to follow up,
Right.
there's gonna be a disconnect. So if they could stay in one system to desk, and so
Yeah, it made sense.
that's a big transition. Then
Yep.
when texting came about, having that
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
system, um, along
Recorded
with
calls,
yeah, I mean,
videos,
that's the yeah,
right?
recorded
Now we're
calls.
emailing. Now we're emailing. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you're dumping in multiple leads from different sources, different parsing methods, I'm sure.
Yeah, you've got it. You go back to the, internet parsing, and you go back to having an actual desk log that contained all forms of traffic on one big log that
Oh, I
mimicked
did all
your
this.
paper log. But you hit on I think one parallel to what our team's focused on now was
Mm-hmm.
that when you saw call tracking, the first one we integrated with, like in 2002 or three, I think it was Who's Calling, but we did an
Mm-hmm.
integration, and the dealers, it was definitely only the pioneers jumped on that, because most dealers said, hey, if I record my employees inbound calls, even though I want to attach it to the ads and see what's making the phone ring,
Yeah.
they're going to revolt. If I record their outbound phone activity,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to quit and go. That's too big brother, and
Mm-hmm.
it's too managerial and hands
Mm-hmm.
on, and I need to trust a little more. So there wasn't a big adoption rate for that. Plus, they thought, hey, when do I have the time to go listen to all these calls, and what will I do with them? So there was a very measured adoption. But now look forward today, how many GMs would run without a call tracking system?
Well,
There's
sadly, many do. But the best part
yeah,
about that system is when you're leveraging a call tracking in with the CRM, so it's all nice and tidy in that customer's profile, especially as you're looking at that customer experience and that journey. Yeah. So you're on the forefront of this, and by the way, that's when I really got into the car business, and this was the time that really started to be a paramount in my own personal career. By the way, did you know we have something in common?
what's that?
My first job out of college was Reynolds too.
Oh wow, yeah, it's no,
I was
hey,
installing those systems too. Anyway, but
breeding ground, and they had, I mean, then they had their CRM as well at the time, was around, and a player. But
hmm
as we went from text to, like you said, vehicle exchange, I think the last piece of the
right.
journey that kind of fully tied the circle together for me was starting and running the service suite at eLead to do a scheduler, lane
Yes,
tablet, iPad application, and a mobile phone
it's
video
heavy.
MTI application.
Yes.
That pieces of that are woven now into CDK
hmm
service. So and it was great. We got acquired by CDK, being able to take advantage of some, all the integrations and open some
hmm
doors. It was incredible. So I enjoyed the time at CDK as well as that at eLead, and now that's led to this to Sky.
Well, I before we move on, because I think we're all so familiar with eLead and have used it at some point in our careers. Who named eLead?
Unfortunately, guilty. It's not a great name. I think it was the third I presented to the ownership, and I don't even think any of us liked it. In fact, it's been butchered. I think most stores still refer to it as e-leads with an S,
Right.
plural,
hmm
and
hmm
we never could get the S chopped off of it. But internet-based lead management was the thought there.
I got you. Like
But
e-commerce lead, is that what that is?
yeah, but I'm
Okay.
as a business partner tells me, I'm a way better critic than creator, and so e-leads
Yeah.
proof of that.
I think it made total sense. Well, you've been part of so many of these major shifts in tech, and you've gone from CRM to now AI, and you're building these really great solutions that change how dealers operate. As a pro dealer advocate myself, and in dealerships every single week, I am on a plane every week looking to solve their biggest problems. I have to ask you before we continue down this journey, because you are the ultimate entrepreneur. And we're just it's so exciting to have you on to see your success and know that you are so capable of such big things. And are all my listeners, there are a lot of dealers, a lot of general managers, a lot of frontline people that are going to find inspiration from this, because you are just outlined a journey for us that we know is not simple. Every time you add one of those features, they're either going to like it or they don't like it. They're either going to use it, they're not going to use it. And there's their highs and your lows. And every entrepreneur is going to experience this. We can all relate to this. So tell me lessons that have helped catapult you from eLead and a successful exit into AI, a more AI focused product. What stands out for you? Biggest lessons help you get here.
I'm not really equipped to dispense advice. Definitely not one of them. Yeah, there's a lot of entrepreneurs in this space that have probably made a much bigger difference than anything I've ever innovated. But I think that I believe that you've got to make sure you're solving a problem that really makes it better for dealership employees and end customers at a dealership to be on the right track. If you have the persistence and the right team, and you're really solving a real, not coming up with solution, trying to fit it to a problem in reverse, then you're on the right track. And then, as you said, with the highs and lows, being even keeled and moderating those, because it is, any pre-solvency company is humbling, especially when you're used to having a support staff and an infrastructure around you, and going to nothing and having just a few like-minded people on a team. It is that roller coaster every day. There's some potential big win, and then a week later, some potential big loss, catastrophe. And so anytime you're operating with a pre-profit entity like a startup or early stage company, trying to keep that balance between a high urgency level on your team, really high, but knowing it's a marathon. That's the tough task, is how do you keep the urgency level pegged and yet know that you're on a roller coaster that's not going to be a fast solution when you're starting it. A lot easier to come into something where someone else's idea has already proven out in the marketplace. So it's humbling, if nothing else, anytime you start something new.
I know so many of my listeners can relate to this. We live in a fast-paced world. We always want answers now. We want things to work right now. And I hear what you're saying. So thinking about the many various dealership problems we see and encounter, what problem was it that pushed you into developing Skaivision?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem, the feedback that we got when our team went to dealer groups to see, what do you need assistance? How could we be the most assistive? There was a couple. For one, was technology fatigue or tech overload for the employees. Too many systems, too many
Too many
logons, too much
widgets.
time. Yeah, too much, too many widgets, too much
Many
time on it.
logins.
Was a big one. And then on the flip side of the employees, for the customer, it's time, perception of time at a dealership. They think that we're stodgy, antiquated as an industry because of all the moving pieces we deal with to sell a vehicle and to sell service. Their persistence of our respect for their time was probably the second problem that went into this.
This makes all the sense. Well, your technology, we talked about it earlier in just, starting this off. I wanted them to hear, what is this CNN, acronym, and this technology, it's basically turning security cameras into operational tools. Now, every dealership's got security cameras all around the place, but does it make money? That's what I'm always saying. Does this make you money? And it's probably one of the few things that we could tie back to say, no, maybe some recovery. But what are the biggest inefficiencies that you've uncovered in leveraging the cameras at the dealership into a product that can help solve some of the biggest current challenges in the store? What have you uncovered so far?
That's a great question. From a broad perspective, consistency is most dealerships knock the cover off the ball on certain transactions in variable and fixed, but doing that on a consistent basis, because if Murphy's Law raises its head and you encounter a bad transaction on, just say, 5 out of 100 express services, that retention loss alone is such a risk that consistency is a big one. We've really been focused or told, directed by clients to hone in, because when you plug an AI appliance into a dealership's camera network and you look at the overall what's going on with the activity day to day, and start to crunch that data or let AI break down that film, the two areas that we've been asked to focus on at this point in our first year and a half out in the with enough dealerships in enough groups, enough geographical areas, to focus on, has been really the express maintenance waiter service experience for the customer employee is number one. And the second has been the service to sales experience for the customer and the store. Those two experiences are the camera has already proven that it can lean into in a very tangible way.
Service to sales, that is one of the more important areas that I tend to personally focus on in dealerships, because it's a huge revenue generator. It's a loyalty piece, a retention piece, and this is what I'm always fighting for. And a lot of times we don't see a solid process that can enable lifetime customers right out of the service drive. And of course, a lot of times people think, when they send out the sales guys to the drive, they're over there picking off their service customers, poaching them, and it causes conflict if not done right. So can we dial into this for a second? Because I do think it's a key revenue driver. You can tell I have a little passion towards this.
You obviously know that friction is a really tough, in all seriousness, it's a tough balancing act, because the customer's there for service. They're coming in for service. So before they come in for service, any communication, they expect to be just confirming the fact they're going there for service, and you understand what I'm coming there for. And the advisors don't like their space crowded. They're there to sell service. And so service managers and customers, there is a potential friction when you are going to, if you don't do it in the right diplomatic way, if you don't offer the option correctly, it can be a negative experience. And that's a big part of what we're seeing a growing segment of the service customers drive towards, which is to do this on their terms. And so what we do is we take one camera that is on the entrance. We call it air traffic control. We typically, any dealership on Skaivision has a camera that captures customers coming in each curb cut and leaving each curb cut, so that we can marry that vehicle to your other systems, service, inventory, DMS, and know who it is, what it's for, how long they were there, and why, and what happened. And so a big positive piece can be that when we identify a vehicle coming into service, if we see that it is truly one to target and not someone that, oops, they just bought a used vehicle they just bought recently, I didn't know that, and I went to, try and buy that one. If it's the right vehicle, first of all, filter it. And if it is, at least give the customer a legally compliant opt-in way to get the information on what you would pay for it, in terms of buying it or crediting it towards a trade. And when we first offered that camera to text evaluation, there were definitely around 10%, I mean, a big piece, almost 10% that would raise their hand and say, yeah, I
Sure.
prefer this to the physical approach. And but that's grown and ticked up almost monthly, a percentage monthly, to where now with, domestic and import, roughly, between 15 and 20%, and for Highline, 25 to 30%, even more with the Highline customer. They prefer that fast approach of, okay, I don't have time to go back and forth. I don't have time to negotiate or deal with a human. Let me know what would be my options quickly, efficiently, and while I'm here for service. Don't carry this over to before or after I'm here for service, and give me the information I need. So we think that what we're seeing in terms of the customer interacting with our agent, that they like the brevity of the communication. The spelling and grammar are zipped up. The accuracy and the concise piece has led several a dealer group recently. A couple GMs told me, we definitely, our team agrees that we would prefer what you're sending out and how you communicate until we take the TO, until you TO it to us with the system. The customer and us prefer that to our best people's communications via email
Wow. That's
or
telling.
text,
That's
because
telling.
it's just you know what you're getting, the times you've set on it,
Well,
and the
there's no
trick is,
confrontation here. This is
yeah,
a service. This is a value act, and there's nobody pressuring you or making you feel like they're trying to sell you something.
yes, and the incremental lift it provides, if you just have an incredible process and you already have systems and you're really doing an incredible job at the store,
Hmm.
that the incremental lift just from the numbers game of customers that do prefer the speed of the camera to text, not having to wait if other systems are
That's
down,
the thing.
connections to a DMS, and you don't get the RO data, or you don't get it in time, or so many things can happen. But that speed at which you get the offer, so that before the customer sits down in the waiting room and gets into reels on their phone, or
Right.
they jump in the Uber,
So
or
real.
the
So real.
loaner. If they have that option there quickly and
Yeah.
efficiently, speed helps a
Yeah.
lot for the result.
I think we're starting to see the visual here, because I think we can all identify with the camera placement. And I think what you're saying, and this is why I find this so attractive and so interesting. And I love a new technology, something that makes people's lives easier and more efficient. Let's go. So what you're saying is the camera is now looking at a plate or a type of car, and it's tying back to a system that's already operating in the dealership. Could be a DMS, could be an equity tool, could be a trade evaluation tool, and it's based on a set of criteria. It's identifying this is, because look, if my lease is up in 3 months, you're targeting a person. If it's a person who just bought their car and this is their first oil change, and I'm not targeting this person, and so there's some sort of criteria where the camera is actually picking up on something, tying it back to information, and then pushing out a text immediately to the ones that are probable.
That's correct, and it ties into all the above systems that you just named. I mean, I don't care if it's
And probably more.
the drive over, alignment system, to tire
Yes.
system, to whatever it is. You want it to tie into all those, and we've
Yeah.
got 14 of those systems tied in fully bidirectionally, and we're
Amazing.
working on another 6 now. So it's you want it tied into every system with an open API. You want the dealer to be able to use whatever
Just amazing.
pricing model or range that they want, and the great exercise to go in and just grab their vehicles that they've traded for and see where they're ACVing those, and use
Yeah.
that reality as the center of your range, and have that automated, and have the flexibility to change that by model or trim level based on what's needed to pull up or back on some. But to do, and then to set up the agent the way you want, with the cadence you want.
It's like
And
a
if the
bot.
customer goes this direction, yes, absolutely.
Okay, I
So
got you.
if the customer goes this way with it, you want to be able to offer, hey, we could possibly get, go this direction if we got a manager to actually drive it, or to buy them time to come in, or escalate if the store's busy and the exchange team or desk or buyer or whatever your infrastructure is can't at that moment handle it, and the agent's able to keep the customer going
We're
with
not going to miss
is
anything.
this your current payment now? Yes. Are you here
Yeah.
now? Yes, we know from camera they're here. Could we meet here and look at options, to be able to keep that conversation flowing naturally at the right speed to get someone at the store on the hook, even if you're escalating it up to GSM, GM, that, hey, we've got someone, they're only going to be here for a few more minutes today. They would like options. They don't want to deal with safety. You're not going to see them again for, 6 months or more for service. The flexibility is critical.
Yeah, look, this is a major revenue generator and is a major opportunity for many things: acquiring vehicles, maintaining a customer, selling a car today. You know. So many things that can happen with this moment right here, and a lot of people aren't getting it right. And so what's really neat here is that a camera literally identified this opportunity and was able to perform and in a consistent way, which is what we're all using AI for. And this really begs the question. I know a lot of listeners are probably thinking this right now. Oh, this sounds expensive. Is this going to be a whole nother camera system that I have to purchase? So are you latching on to their current camera system?
Yes, we haven't found any systems yet that we can't integrate with, as long as they're not 15, 20-year-old analog non-IP cameras, which we fortunately have not run into yet.
No.
But the current camera systems normally support 4 to 6 channels or streams, and we only need one of those streams. So we're not actually having to connect to their camera system. We're just getting an RTSP stream from the cameras they designate as needed in the chain, to chain the flow together. Because we go in and we map the traffic flow at the dealership to determine where do we need to get the initial read on the customer, where in the lane do we need to get it, where on the express racks, car wash, delivery, where do we need to chain this together? Yeah, sales as well. Where's the entry points there? Where's the blind spot on the lot? Where's the bullpen and staging areas where vehicles can go into a black hole? There's that whole flow is mapped, and often dealerships say, hey, we're missing cameras. We don't have one at this place that's critical. We don't have one on the EV charger. We want to know if it's sufficient. We don't have one on the car wash. We'd love for our customers to be able to know, hey, you're almost out of here. This is your baby going through the wash right now. You're out of here in 15 minutes. So they end up adding some, and they end up hooking into a subset of those that they already have when we install the dealership.
Okay, okay, points. Really, I love this, and I don't want to forget about the other thing that you said earlier, because express service is a vibe. It has been growing in popularity. It is significantly important in retaining our customers. One of the biggest gripes for customers today is that it took too long to get an oil change. It shouldn't take 2.5 hours to get an oil change, and so we started to seeing some easy services, even some recall work being done here in our express lanes, and it's grown in popularity. You mentioned putting cameras on express lane, and that you had targeted outside of service to sales as a repeat offender, and that there was something here that stood out to you as an opportunity to correct a process, an initiative here to really dial into something. Whoa, what was it? What was it? What did you find?
Yes, the massive opportunity because of the volume. It's the most at bats most any store gets.
There you go.
When you look at the number of people that come in, I was talking to dealer group this morning, and we're talking about, hey, if you had a dealership that had 100 customers come in the door, the whole facility on site in one day, how many of those would be there to look at a vehicle or have a sales appointment or so? Maybe 25-ish, probably 30. How many are there for service? 70, 75, but how many for express service? 40, 50. The majority of your at bats are going to be express service. And um, it's critical because that's going to drive whether the customer returns to purchase vehicles, to give you the heavy service work, to
Absolutely.
buy the tires and brakes later. Are
That's
you
right.
your competition with Jiffy Lube, Pep Boys, Valvoline, the independents at some point in the life of that vehicle? That competition is going to be driven by a perception of that customer on express service experience at
Absolutely.
the door. And it is because of the volume and because of the number of moving pieces involved at the
Mhm.
dealership that don't exist at just a drive through independent service operation. It is a challenge to know what your best looks like and what your worst looks like. So the first thing we can do is let the dealership know, not a feeling, but here is your average. You're actually running for work for people that come in and you or don't have an opportunity to upsell. For those 60, 70% of express customers, here, if you sold an hour and a half less of work, here is your actual average, an hour and 37 minutes. That's it. It's not an hour that you think or hour 15. It's not 2 hours that the customer accused you of or 3 hours. It's an hour and 37 minutes. So here it is. Now, what are you capable of in terms of, wow, look at these 30 that we sold and got them out of here in 40 minutes and exceeded their expectations and sold them, 1.3, 1.4 hours of work and got them through here and exceeded their expectations. That, how many of those are we getting and how we increase that? And what
Mhm.
can the camera do right when it
Yes.
sees that we did exceed expectations? Can you go ahead and send the Google review out when and let them know, hey, the advisor so and so really respected your time today and hopes they exceeded your expectations. Could you take 30 seconds and reciprocate? And they're going to give positive feedback at a massive level for those. But we're not
Yeah.
going to go fish in the opposite pond for that.
Right.
So it is as much. So on the flip side, for the customers that you do drop the ball and they did have the 3-hour oil change, as you said, what do you do there? Can we automatically have the agent then interact and send out the appropriate gift card or discount on next service? And can we get ahead of that before it becomes a retention loss instead of opportunity in 9 to 12 months? We don't want to wait. So, and then more importantly, what does the camera see in terms of your patterns of why, when those stars align, what has to happen for the best to happen and what's happening when the worst happens over and over? Where can we adjust the process? And that's where the advantage is that the camera, the our application doesn't require any data input, or tasks. The camera's the sole data source, and the
It's the
artificial
data
intelligence.
collector, right?
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is.
it's
Yeah,
literally
it's
watching patterns in the dealership, um, and it's logging and reporting to you where your inefficiencies exist.
Yeah, real time for some. We've seen a change. The dealerships thought they wanted a Ring app and they wanted to know real time this and that, but they really only want to know the super egregious at the right person, the right time for the real time. It
Got
becomes
you.
more about, okay, you've crunched this data, you've analyzed, you know, 40 hours of film this week. What do we need to do now? Where's the adjustments in the process, and what does you see as recommending to handle that?
Yeah, but
And that's
nobody
where
wants to go back and watch the films. I mean, that's for the football team,
no, that's
right?
why
So,
it's great that the camera is objective, doesn't listen to any drama, doesn't have any issues going on, or HR related, doesn't take a day off or a minute off.
love it.
It's
It's
a good data
amazing.
source for that. But you're absolutely right. You've got to teach the cameras know better than there's no substitute for the human eye, as I like to say, in terms, especially a good human eye of the best performers at dealerships on the front lines. If you can get the camera to recognize what they would with their eyes, the problem is they can't be everywhere the camera is at once.
No.
And so if you can get the camera to
Do what you
recognize
want it
what
to
you
do.
want, and then, like you say, automate what you want. Type all this
Yeah.
out for me redundantly.
Can you imagine? It's sending it back to the DMS and updating files and updating ROs. You doing that?
We are not pushing updating an RO with data from the camera at this point, although we are working on a project with a DMS provider that
That'd be
we
insane.
will be through things like gesture recognition. We'll be doing the we call it the technician touchdown project right now, and so stay tuned. In alpha, we do have that activity going on. A lot of what we do in tie-ins, though, with the DMS are more from, hey, if the customer came in and this recall's open, is the part there or not? Can we go ahead
Okay.
and suggest that there? Is the has this been filled? Has this customer been orphaned on this, and can the agent communicate with it? A lot of that tie back, and we do have two DMS systems that have said we really want the camera data to tie back and do what you said of auto updating, where right now humans have to go in and do the edit, because
Yeah.
they see the potential of, what if we took all the human tasks that are redundant and tedious, and we could, with what's marry that with what's really going on in the action that the camera sees, and the timing, eliminate the gap that exists between the timing of the software completion and where it's really at. If we automate some of that, we can trim massive amounts of time off transactions in variable and fixed.
Well, surely that impacts customer experience. I mean, that is what everybody is looking to do. Save time at the dealership, whether it's service or sales. How is this technology going to impact customer experience, or what have you seen so far?
Yeah, customers, we talked about the positive experience that they like with the information. They want really the same things for both variable and fixed. They want speed, convenience, and transparency.
Well,
And the
yeah.
transparency, a lot of the customers, we talked about how much their life is in their mobile device. As someone pointed out recently on something I saw, we call it their phone, but it's not their phone. It's this computer they carry around that has a phone app. You're married to this little computer you're with all day. The transparency and the visual aspect there, sometimes they want to see it, not read it or hear it. So we see that sometimes the customer will, we have one store that says, hey, when the vehicle comes off the lift for
Okay.
express, show the vehicle driving out, say, great news, you're just off the lift. And the customer says, yes, I can see behind the curtain. I get a peek. It's something that I wouldn't see if I'm at a franchise, not an independent. And another dealership we mentioned earlier, when it's going through that, hey, that's my vehicle going through the car wash, they can calm down and say, okay, it probably is going to be another 20 minutes, but they're making progress. They're washing my car, which they wouldn't be doing at an independent. So the transparency
Hmm.
is something that's going to resonate with the customer perception of our industry, in our opinion. And we think that what the camera can capture and deliver has already been proven with
Yeah, it's
video.
really
Look
neat.
at how many videos have to be sent from the CRM to drive a lead down the funnel. As you know, look at how much video affects the upsell rate on MPI activity.
Absolutely.
All of that. Now, what if you could organically collect what's going on and give the customer pieces and chain that together?
Yeah.
How might that impact their
Well,
experience?
it's going to increase trust and confidence, which is what we're always fighting for, and transparency, as you mentioned. We're moving it. We're here. We're in the era of transparency. We've been saying it forever, and the tools are going to continue to emerge. And dealers today have to wake up and be a part of the era of leveraging AI in
Yes.
every single way to hybrid what humans are best at and what AI can do to replace the inefficiencies and inconsistencies that all of us are capable of and impacts our business and our bottom line. And at the end of the day, we are here to serve customers and ensure the customers are feeling great about us. And these sort of things that you're working on they're designed to make this work. This is amazing. Honestly, I don't think, we see things like camera technology in Home Depot. We see it in Walgreens. They're identifying shoplifters and things like this. But in a dealership, I don't think that we have been exposed to something like this. I know you guys have installed this in a ton of stores. You got 2 years under your belt. Adding 20 stores a month alone. Congratulations. It's just outstanding. I've watched a lot of entrepreneurs do this. And not everybody can say that they can move that fast. Clearly, you've got a market, and we know Mark has got many miles. He's racking on those airplanes to get out there and see people. Super impressive, my friend. You got stores that are putting the product into play. You've got top groups like Southeast Toyota. Hello, that's the best. And AMSI partners, some of the largest enterprise groups like Sonic. People are all jumping on this because they see the future. What insights have you gained in working with companies like this?
I think some of the insights go back to the need to get into the stores. All the insights really have come from the frontline employees and from the end customers themselves.
Right. They're shaping this product.
How the product started out and what we envisioned and some of management at some of our first dealerships envisioned and what it's morphed to now, just
very different.
Very, very different. Those
are the highs and lows we talked about earlier.
Yeah, and there's just no substitute.
You gotta listen.
Being in the store, no substitute for that, and not just one group or one type of store, but just a broad swath geographically and of different processes and different groups. I think is the real key. In terms of insights that you're going to, in terms of what's going to really affect what you need to do the fastest with a technology, because the ability to pivot quickly based on that need, I can't overemphasize. There's several things in our roadmap that we had to make instant pivots because it became apparent this is what they want and this is what's going to drive that result. And so I think that working with some groups like you said that are very focused right now is a great time because you're the real timing now of, hey, real world kicking in, the need to optimize efficiency, the need to keep personnel cost where it's sustainable, the whole post-COVID mirage being evaporating right now is perfect timing to get engagement from some of those the installs that we're doing. And I think that's where if you go to the top netting stores in the top groups, the top performers throughout the nation, and they help you craft the roadmap, that's going to be the biggest driver of success for new technology, in my opinion. And that's where we're fortunate enough to have partners honing the use cases with us.
Yeah, I think any dealer, any entrepreneur, any salesperson who started off at the bottom and now they're on the top, could really relate to what you're saying here because if you're not, and I constantly am preaching this in the dealerships with, our head coach, I say, you got to work with the coaches, and so that we could work with the teams. And if you're not frontline, how will we modify and evolve and stay relevant if somebody, head coach, are not in the game yourself, seeing what's transforming, see what's changing, see what customers want. It's the same thing with sales process or service process, and we need our head coaches in there and seeing what's changing because behaviors are changing so rapidly, and the technology, and especially the technology even customers are using, is evolving so rapidly that we all expect everything to be like yesterday. So
Yeah,
I think
we don't see the top brains in the industry that have taken the time to look at what the film breakdowns show. Their insights blow anything on our team, and we've got some great,
really
really
insightful.
bright individuals on the team, but their insights to say, hey, looking just right now at the 15 cameras we do have on variable, we see right now we're not doing any 1 hour deals without this happening.
Or
Appraisal
missed
at
TO
exactly the same
opportunities.
time as the test drive's occurring, or if there's more than a 10-minute gap between test drive and figures to F&I, or this, if there's
Yes.
more than this amount of time in F&I, they see, they connect the
The
dots
camera
so
sees it all.
quickly for us to be able to go in and say, okay, team, they're right. We're hearing that here. We're hearing it here. We're hearing it somewhere else. Let's react to that, and let's tell the AI to start looking for that pattern.
We've just touched on a few examples today. I think these are the ones you've mentioned as being the big highlights for most of the stores that you're in right now, but you're constantly evolving. I know you're out there continuously modifying, improving, listening to these guys beyond service and sales. What other areas of the dealership could AI-powered cameras improve?
Yeah,
What haven't you said?
sales, service, and security all are tied to the whole dealership flow and chain. So I think that one area, when you talk about future improvements, capacity is something that we're focused
Mm,
on a lot right now, because we see, like you said, customers see other applications and other verticals, and whether that is the transparency they see when they look at a sports clips or Jersey Mike's or their gym app, and see when to go and when not to
yeah.
get through quickly. They want to see that with the dealership as well. And if our
Mm,
agent right now, we're working on being able to reach out to the customer and see, hey, I don't think they know that if they came in today on their way home from work, they can be in and out in 25 minutes, whereas
yeah.
tomorrow morning, it's probably going to be an hour and 10. We'll do a great job, get them out an hour and 10, but they can literally be in and out at this time. And the ability to shift capacity. Right now, we're looking at rack utilization a lot in the service departments, and the system can tell if there's a technician install a vehicle, both real estate producing positive income,
Mm-hmm.
or neither, or tech waiting for work, capacity problem, vehicle waiting for technician, potential flow and staffing problem, and nothing in the stall at all, a big problem if it's during certain times of day, consistently is a pattern.
Mm,
And we're seeing that we can probably take the visual AI and everything we're seeing on camera, feed it into other systems to adjust by the minute what the
hmm.
capacity is and what the communications to who need to be to shift that capacity flow. And that if we spread the customers out correctly, that there is an algorithm for what pays off without discounting something too much to come into our dead 5 to 6 p.m. time, but not letting us lose money at that time employing a technician with no work.
Mm.
And that this transparency that the customer wants in
Uh-huh.
terms of visual, because a lot of times it's you can't just set that up and say, here's the way we're going to go, set it on autopilot. Certain days are busy, certain are not. Certain
True.
times we
Certain
get
times of the
clocked,
day.
some people
Mm-hmm.
aren't there that day. It
Mm-hmm.
literally varies on what the camera sees day to day. And without the actual input on what is happening this second, at the dealership, that data is transforming a lot of what we do and what we see as opportunity.
Mm. Is that what's on the horizon, or do you have some more tricks up your sleeve for what's next for Skaivision? And I am curious to hear what that might look like, and how you see AI continuing to shape the dealership operations in the next year.
Yeah, I think that a lot of talk right now going along around agentic AI and the customers' propensity to engage. Where's it best with the human? Where does it need to come in? Where can it be more reliable with using AI tools? And so I don't think there's going to be some agent AI arms race winner. I think it's got to be a mix of tool sets, a mix
Yeah,
of
me too.
tools. So I think the open
Me too.
integration for us to truly eat our own dog food and have every page as a bidirectional webhook that we will, as long as secure, as long as it's trusted and accredited by the dealer, that the ability to share between those systems. So I look at the integrations, the 14 we have now bidirectional, and how key that is to eliminating bottlenecks for the customer. I think that in the future, like we talked about, hey, those internet leads that we started to see in CRMs that became a big deal in 03, 04, that there'll be a subset of customers that are good with purchasing a vehicle once they have their own agent applications and we have ours. Those two agents can go back and forth on 24 passes in a second and arrive at a deal and start talking hey, are you an agent? Me too. Let's talk this language, zeros and ones, and go. And those two, that number of customers, just like we've seen the number that say we prefer your agent on these types of things so far, and they prefer it, that might end up being a larger percentage of deals faster than you think in the future.
Interesting.
And so we think on the camera side, our goal, our mission is to make it a no-brainer that within 5 years, no dealership would want a non-AI enhanced network at their
Makes sense.
dealership. Why would you, if you could have it automate things and illuminate things, who would want to go back to having to look through the feeds to see if something went wrong, having people
No.
on that? We think that that's going to be an archaic thought, and it needs to be easy enough, fast enough, and simple enough that it is a no-brainer to plug in to the network. But by the same token, we don't think AI is some silver bullet on any level. No language model, no generative AI concept, no CNN like ours. Nothing is going to replace the need to have the right people at the right times and places to take those reins. And
doing the most important things.
It is.
Not the tedious
people
things that a machine can do.
Yes, the right time and the right place for everything is the kind of our North Star in
Makes
terms
sense.
of what we're enabling the computer vision to do.
You're incredibly exciting to listen to, Mark. You and I run at the same speed. I can only imagine what is on the horizon. I mean this. I'm very excited about what you're doing. And when you're in the stores working like you are, hand in hand with these guys, front line, you're watching it, you're supporting it, you're listening, you're reacting. I can only imagine what this product turns into. You're only 2 years in, and everything you're saying just sounds like another home run. Wow. Kudos to you. You're ambitious. You are doing it again, and not a lot of people can say that. Not a lot of people can say that. They got one hit, but here we go. Very innovative, very exciting.
Hey, thank you for what I've seen everything from your progression on the passion you've brought from everything from phone skills up to now the drive and the service advisors to the whole process. There's not there's not much that you haven't covered accurately.
Got to stay relevant.
We appreciate. Our whole team are big fans of yours,
Thank
Jen.
you.
We appreciate everything that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, look, you're on our radar now.
All
and
right,
we'll be
good.
watching. Come on.
We'll try
Show
and
us
make
what
you
you got.
proud, and we'll try and do the right thing. 'Cause that's the one thing that we remind our team all the time is that, hey, your word, what comes around goes around, and your word is what matters in this space. And it's the one thing that's going to follow you
That's a fact.
forever and always and everywhere you go. And so we're just trying to do the right thing for the dealerships and the customers.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
If you like these episodes and my sales game techniques, you should snatch up our latest dealer education program I'm hosting. It's called Jen's Remote Classes, and it's a 1-hour, once-a-week class with me alongside other dealerships all pursuing the same end game to achieve top 10% status in your dealership. For more info, hit me up. All my contact info's in the show notes. I want to hear from you. And follow Dealer Talk with Jen Suzuki right now to get notified when episodes like this one drop. This is Jen on the podcast Dealer Talk with Jen Suzuki. See ya!